So for the record, while I am at Lourdes, I am having to be exceptionally creative about finding new locations from which to host a meditation, if only because I do not have the comfort of my sanctuary. I am at the sanctuary of Our Lady of Lourdes, and this weekend for Easter, it is crowded. There are people everywhere who have gathered for Good Friday and Easter Monday and for the prayers and the processions. And like most tourist-based sacred spaces, everybody is in a hurry to go somewhere, to find something. And one of the things I've noticed while I'm here is the general notion that one has to have a problem, a crisis of some kind. One has to be extremely sick or need to have babies or have some other challenge, great challenge, before seeking this relationship with God, before finding one's faith. And when I look back over history, it seems to be a notion that has been perpetuated into every religion, that until you find yourself completely inadequate as a human being, there is no need for God. I'm very likely as equally guilty as everybody else. But I have to say, I feel like I was born into a relationship with God, born into a relationship with other people, purely because I've always been so curious and interested in them. And maybe that's one of the things that we need to develop within ourselves, like Charmaine, a hardcore, general, innate, living curiosity about the universe, about the spaces and places, why people are here, what are they doing here, what are their stories, where are they going? More importantly, where have they come from in their understanding of themselves and the world? And in having that curiosity, find ourselves, not just in finding each other, but finding our innate selves, that core self that actually is here to be with other people, to enjoy their presence. Pascal had a friend visiting this morning, and he was telling a story about a documentary that he'd watched on television about an island of India somewhere, where the men were convinced that women had greater access to God and that you had to be female in order to get close enough to God. In order to be female, they have negated their manhood, and they live on this island as if they are women. He talked about them at length, but he talked about them in French, so I missed 2/3 of the conversation. And Pascal, I have to tell you, is not very good at translating everything that I need to hear. But one of the most important things he said while he was telling us about this documentary was that the men who are living as women on this island, firstly, are beautiful. Secondly, they have a firm belief that being female gives you greater access to God. And lastly, that they have nothing physical to give. They have no money, they have no possessions, they have nothing to give visitors to the island. So in order to give of themselves, they get fully present. They literally just stand next to someone and exude a presence that enfolds and embraces people and gives to them. And I thought that was so beautiful. It was such a beautiful way of sharing oneself, uplifting others just by being present and being silent and being with them. Whatever they're being, whatever they're doing, whatever they're feeling, to just be with them in acceptance, in non-judgment, in non-resolution of whatever it is they're doing. So when I went down to the baths today, where people from the hospitals here at Lourdes arrive in wheelchairs and stretchers and are assisted by the women who volunteer at the baths to be taken in. Who is off mute? Let's see. What was I saying? Yes. So here I am at the baths, and all of these women are working quietly, in silence. But you feel them. You feel them being present. You feel them uplifting your prayer. You feel them praying with you and for you. And you feel their faith that the waters of Our Lady here at Lourdes is actually going to cleanse you. It's going to heal you. It's going to restore you and revitalize you. And I came away not quite certain whether it was the water or the people sharing their presence and sharing their faith and uplifting my own that has left me feeling like a 5-year-old willing to bounce off the walls. I also feel, while I'm here, the intense need of the people who come to Lourdes. Almost everyone who comes here comes either because they need something or they have received something from Our Lady. They come to say thank you. They come to ask. They come to beg. They come to plead. They come to find something of themselves. And this notion that we actually have to be that desperate in our lives before we look for God is something that has been perpetuated even in the Western civilization understanding of spirituality. Almost every one of the books you buy these days will say, if you have opened this book, there is something in it that you need to see, need to find, need to read, need to understand in order to heal yourself or become more yourself. I have probably taught you exactly the same thing, that you need to come to meditation, that you need a guru, that you need something outside of yourself to happen to you, to create this desire to be in harmony with creation, with God, with the universal intelligence. And the truth is that you don't. The truth is that if you close your eyes and you feel everything around you, you will be at one with it. That there is no magic in it, that there is no ritual to take you there, that the universe is so vast and so open and so transparent and so available. When I talk to Our Lady here at Lourdes, it is not better or louder than talking to her anywhere else in the world. It is not better or louder than talking to her at home. And yet the masses, all of the people who have come here and left their energy here, and all of the people who are bringing their energy here this weekend, intensify my own feeling of faith. And this is why sacred spaces are so important. They are not important as spaces where we need to go to find God, but they are spaces that are important for us to visit in order to feel that faith at the deeper, more profound level. There is no need for you to have a crisis. There is no need for you to have great loss. There is no need for you to get extremely sick in order to seek a spiritual pathway. You are the spiritual pathway. You are born that. Realizing it doesn't require extreme wounding or pain or harshness or anger in your life first. It doesn't require the struggle that we talked about in other meditations. It actually doesn't require anything than a choice. And the freedom to choose a spiritual life exists in every religion. I was talking to one of the nuns at the baths today, and she asked whether I was Christian because I'm wearing a Shiva pendant. And I said, no, because I don't regard myself as a Christian. And she simply nodded, and then she gave me a big hug. And the feeling I got from the hug was that she was reassuring me, that she wanted me to feel okay about the fact that I'm not Christian, that she was wanting to comfort me that I wasn't born into Christianity, or that I wasn't baptized into Christianity, or any of those ritualistic things that would make me Christian. So I wanted to say, it's okay, don't worry about me, it's okay that I'm not Christian. And instead I heard myself saying, I'm like Christ. He wasn't Christian either. And she immediately stopped hugging me. She stopped being Christian. She stopped being nurturing. And she turned away. And I realized that all of the people who come to Lourdes, or some of the people who come to Lourdes, and some of the people who get on their spiritual pathways, have a very specific expectation of what they will find. They have an expectation that their need will be answered. And these expectations inform our relationship with God. They inform everything that we know about God and everything that we think about God and creation and the universal intelligence. We need to check our expectations at the door. We need to check our anticipation of God at the door. We need to check our illusions about life at the door. And when we've done that, you feel the universe breathe through you. It just breathes through you. There is no feeling anywhere else in the world, anywhere else outside of you that can emulate or that can be as blissful as that feeling of the universe breathing through you. In this highly energized state, I feel great sadness for the state of the world, and I feel great joy, positivity, even a great sense of hope. And you all know how I dislike this feeling of hope, but I feel a great sense of hope about what we can achieve and who we can become if we would only allow the universe to breathe through us. Everywhere I go at Lourdes, I see crosses. I see crucifixes where the figure of Christ is boldly displayed in anguish and in pain, perpetuating this notion that we need pain, that we need wounding to find God, and that we are forever doomed to some kind of punishment if we don't find God. I heartily dislike this part of religion, and I heartily dislike seeing it in our sacred spaces because it makes humanity and all of its potential so much less. It negates our capacity and it brings us into fear. And I feel that fear here. Even here at Our Lady of Lourdes, there are so many people who come in their fear and in their woundedness and are unwilling to let go of both. And when I think about why and when I feel why, very often there is the fear that if they let go of their drama of need, if they let go of their drama of guilt, if they let go of their drama of sickness and disease and anything that they've been holding on to as part of their identity, then they might not have a reason, a purpose to look for God. They might not have a reason or a purpose to seek a spiritual life. And then why would they go to meditation? Why would they walk the hillsides and breathe? Why would they stand on mountaintops and take in the view? Why would they go into a church and pray? If they didn't have that drama to begin with, they wouldn't be here. And that strikes me as really sad, because everywhere we go, there is God meeting us in our own homes, in churches, on the street, on sidewalks. I watch the dogs doing their business and the French picking it up after them, and I see God at work, a consciousness of how to live in harmony with each other, a consciousness of how to be respectful of each other is God at work. So my notions of God, my understanding of God gets simplified with every pilgrimage, with every experience. It gets simpler and simpler and simpler until really that binary number system, 0 to 1, is all that is left. I don't know if it takes great surrender or a simplified mind or just acceptance or non-judgment or the absence of so many of those negative emotions like anger and pain and revenge, unforgiveness. I don't actually know what it's taken to get to a point where everything becomes so simple. I know that it's been a long road to find this simplicity in the relationship with God, to not be driven by a need, to not be driven by a yearning for the more or a requirement of healing or for God to answer something. It's been a long road to get to a simple space where God and I are just breathing with each other, or dancing with each other, or feeling or seeing each other in everybody. And that's what I celebrate as I pilgrimage through Lords. There are moments here when I am exceptionally bored and I give Pascal a hard time. And those are the moments in which I am completely at home, where I'm recognizing a daily routine and that I'm no longer a tourist and I'm no longer busy doing things or working as a spiritual entity. Those are the moments in which I'm completely human and I'm just in a city with a man in a hotel that is very busy and very noisy. Other than that, the energy of Our Lady permeates every aspect of the city. And it's wonderful to turn around on a crossroads in the city and feel her there and know that she's there and that she chose this space. She specifically chose this space to make it a home of her own. I am reminded whenever I see her at Lourdes of how beautiful it is to see her at home in my own space. How beautiful it is to see her when I visit other people, whether they have a statue of her or whether they think of her from time to time and she becomes present. That energy permeates everything. It goes everywhere. It isn't only at the sites of apparition. And I'm reminded again that you do not need a crisis. You do not need a desperate yearning. You do not have to need healing or anything else of Our Lady or any other universal intelligence to be at home with God. As I'm talking to you, I'm watching the sun come down over the mountains, and right in front of me is the cathedral where Bernadette herself, where Bernadette herself used to worship Our Lady before Our Lady was an apparition here at Lourdes. Almost everything, in my view, is older than the city of Lourdes as a sanctuary itself. Almost everything is older than the 160 years being celebrated here today. And when I think about all of the ancient energy that is available all over the world, beyond the 2018 years since the death of Christ himself, then I wonder, how old are all of us? How many lifetimes have we had where we have been seekers and searchers? How many lifetimes of buying into this notion that we have to suffer in order to seek God? We have to suffer in order to realize our own potential. That we have to struggle and become sick and feel our limitations so fully that we must find a way to surpass them. Thank you. So for each of us, there is always a choice. How much further do you need to travel before you choose to seek God? Because you can. Because you're a loving being. Because you're wholeness embodied, as opposed to finding yourself in one drama after the other, lurching from one space to the other in order to experience God in your life. Now, I'm not a proponent of converting people to any kind of religion. But I do have to say that the more I go on pilgrimage, the more I want to teach people that God is available everywhere. That the kind of relationship you have with God is exactly the kind of relationship you may have with a dog. And speaking of dogs, they are plentiful in France. They are plentiful right here at Lourdes. They are plentiful in the energy systems available everywhere I go. And they are a blessing. So the year of the dog is turning out beautifully. If any of you are in the mood to be acquiring a dog at this time in your lives, please go to the SPCA or any other rescue space and pick one up. It's a wonderful commitment to make at any time in your life, provided you are willing to be responsible. And exactly that same rule applies to any relationship you might choose to have with God. It's exactly the same rules. It requires responsibility and commitment. So, let us meditate.